Yo, what's going on everyone, Impulse here and welcome back to another Sun and Moon Wi-Fi battle. Today I'm going to be battling Reawakened in a mixed tier battle, and as you can see from the team, I've got a Clefgate, an Arcanine, a Greninja, a Superior, a Starmie and a Garchomp. And my opponent's rocking a Garvantula, a Gallade, a Sylveon, a Crobat, a Goodra and a Absol. If you're wanting to have a battle in the near future, go ahead and drop your details down below in the comments section. I'm going to be wanting to bring a mixture of tiers, lower, multi-battles, all sorts of different stuff, not just regular OU battles because that's boring. And yeah, anyway, let's get into this battle. Apologies in advance if you can hear anything background noise wise, like other people in the background, because there are some kids out on the street playing. Anyway, Reawakened is going to issue his challenge. This was a battle that we had over on the community. It was for an event for community currency. So he's going to lead with his Garvantula and I am going to lead with Clefgate. So I'm going to get up a light screen because we know Garvantulas are prone to setting up a sticky web and then going on the spam attacks with the Thunder or the Bug Buzz. So there's not much I can do about that right now. I'm just going to have to set up my own stuff while he sets up his. So he's going to withdraw Garvantula. Now he's seen that the screen's up and he's got his Focus Sash intact. And he's going to go out into Crobat. And I am also going to make a switch and I'm going to go out into Garchomp. So Garchomp's going to get stuck in the sticky web. And he is going to go for a defog, which removes his own sticky web, which I was quite interested in why he did that. Wasn't really sure, but he does get rid of our screen, so obviously he held priority to getting rid of the screen, because obviously it is up for 8 turns, and because I've got the light clear, so I'm just going to get my rocks up. I know he's got the defog, but if he wants to set him back a turn to do that, that's fine. I decided that I'm going to go out into Clefgate. He actually just goes for a U-turn. My intention was to get a paralysis off on this thing because I have got the Thunder Wave. But he doesn't feel like playing that game and he's going to go out into his Sylveon. So I'm expecting the Hidden Power Fire because there's no other real reason why he would go into this thing. So I'm going to get the light screen up and see how much this does behind the screen. And as predicted, he does go for the Hidden Power. And at this point I'm pretty confident that it's fire, and I decide to switch out. I make the switch and I go into Arcanine to resist the Hidden Power Fire and to be able to start doing some little shenanigans of my own. He makes a withdraw after seeing how much damage it did and he goes back out into Crobat. Crobat is going to take some damage from the Stealth Rocks, of course. But if he wants to at this point, he can just do a defog, get rid of my rocks and my screen once again, which is a bit of a problem. But instead of doing that, he decides to go for a U-turn. He's going to take some damage from the Rocky Helmet, so that's not too bad there for me. He switches out and he goes out into his Goodra to take the potential fire attack. Goodra is going to take some damage and then Will-O-Wisp is going to connect. Will-O-Wisp is going to do its job. It's going to do a little bit of chip damage and it's going to lower his attack, which in general cases would not matter for a Goodra. But it turns out that this Goodra is a physical attacking Goodra, so it made a huge difference. It was a very bad switch for him and basically crippled his guy. So I'm going to roar his Mon out and get some more damage from the Stealth Rocks. And unfortunately for me, he goes out into Absol, which is the absolute worst. I know that this thing is going to be his Mega. I can't burn it. I can't roar it. I can't really do anything to it. So I go out into Clefgate. Of course, he does Mega Evolve, which means now he's got the Magic Bounce as his ability. So I can't do any of that funky stuff to him. The only thing I can really do is set up my screens, but unfortunately he is going to set up a Swords Dance, which is a bad time for us. He could potentially go on to Sweepers at this point, but for some reason he's scared of the Play Rough or the Steel type move and he's going to switch out. and he goes out into Garvantula. Garvantula is going to take a little bit of damage from the rocks as I get the reflect up, which means that now we're looking in a lot better position again, but I'm still scared of the Arcanine. Nope, I'm still scared of the Absol. So I'm going to go out into Garchomp to take a resisted hit from this thing, or potentially a neutral hit, but he just goes for his sticky webs, which is obviously the best play for him to do. With nothing left to do, he just goes for an energy ball, but it's not going to do a great deal of damage. I'm going to fire off an Earthquake, and it's going to be able to take Garvantula out. So I'm starting to break down, and the light screen finally wears off. Glade's going to come out. And it's going to go for an Ice Punch. He gets the critical hit behind the screen, which definitely mattered. It's going to take some Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet, but that is a major setback for me. I was quite upset that he got the crit. And now I'm going to have to bring in Arcanine. Arcanine's going to be able to drop his attack with the Intimidate. Of course, we are caught in the sticky web, so our speed will be reduced. My opponent goes for the Zen Headbutt to get some minor damage off. It's going to cause some recoil though because of the Rocky Helmet, and I'm going to be able to use Roar. I actually predicted a switch at that turn, but obviously it didn't pay out. And here he comes again. Absol loves coming in off those roars. He's going to take a little bit of damage, and yet again there's nothing much I can do. So he's going to make a withdraw himself, and he goes out into Sylveon. Sylveon's going to come in, take some damage from the hazards, and those rocks are starting to rack up. I decided that I had no other option. I had to go for the fire type attack. I had to go for the flamethrower, get as much damage on the Arcanine, on the Absol as possible. But obviously he made that switch, and now I'm going to have to switch. I switch into Klefki to see what he wants to fire off, and he goes for the hidden power once again. So I accepted that as a good prediction. I went straight into it, and I'm going to switch back out. I could stay in, fodder off my guy, but I decided that I'll take a resisted hit on Greninja, and it would be all good. I'll be able to fire off an attack on whatever else wants to come in. But he just goes for the hidden power again, and then at this point we realise that it's not resisted and it's actually hidden power ground. So I take unnecessary damage there from predicting wrong, and he's going to make a switch out into Gallade. Gallade comes out, and it's going to take some damage from the rocks as I go for an Ice Beam. We're going to get a boost thanks to our ability, and we've also got a Life Orb, so Gallade's going to go down very swiftly. With the amount of HP it had left, there was nothing really it could do at that point. So Absol comes back out, and again the problem is here. He's going to take some more damage though from the rocks, which are definitely putting in work at this point. He should have definitely defogged them. And I go for a Water Shuriken, because it's the only move I can really do to start chipping this thing down. We get the boost, and we hit the 2 times. Doesn't quite do as much as I wanted it to do. I was hoping it would do more, hit more times, something. But unfortunately Greninja's going to take a permanent nap. So it goes down, and I'm left to bring out Superior. Thanks to the contrary, Superior is going to get the boost from the speed instead of the reduction. So that's really nice there, which means that we outspeed, and I'm going to be able to fire off a Leaf Storm and take Absol out, which was the major threat. Of course, we're going to get a +2 attack on top of that as well. So we're going to take some damage from the Life Orb, which I've apparently got on this set, and Crobat's going to come back in. Thanks to the boost, we're faster than Crobat. But there's nothing much I really want to do against it, considering he quad resisted my leaf attack, my Leaf Storm. So I'm going to go out into Arcanine. Arcanine's going to get caught in the web once more, and we're going to get an Intimidate off, which is going to reduce its attack in case it wants to U-turn. He goes for a roost to recover that lost HP, which is not a bad play in any way, so his Crobat's going to be quite annoying, I can see that, and there's not much I can really do against it at this point. So he's going to switch out instead of going for the U-turn because he knows about the Rocky Helmet. And he goes out into Sylveon. Sylveon's going to take some more damage as I go for the recovery. I go for the Morning Sun to preserve my Arcanine just as he did with his Crobat. We both want them to be in a fighting physical condition. So he's going to go for his Hidden Power Ground. I'm going to stay in though, see how much this does. And I'm going to go for another Morning Sun, basically just to scout the damage. I knew I could survive it definitely, because obviously I'm the bulky set. I just wanted to gauge how much this how much it was going to do. Obviously now we can see that he's locked into his Hidden Power, so I'm going to go into Superior to resist his attack. Superior is going to get a boost from the Sticky Webs, which is always nice, and we're going to take some damage from the resisted hit. He's got no choice but to retreat. He switches out and goes into Crobat. Crobat's kind of annoying though because he's got Infiltrator. It means I can't really do too much. So I'm just going to fire off a Leech Seed. That connects and we're going to start chipping away slowly at this Crobat. Gain me some HP back as well, which is always nice. So knowing that I can't really stay in, I've got to switch out. I go out into Arcanine again, just in case it wants to fire off an attack. We can get some damage off from its Rocky Helmet, and we can also reduce its attack from the Intimidate, which is going to kick off right now. Crobat goes for a Brave Bird, reveals that he's carrying a flying type move, which would have been devastating to us, so it's a good job we switched out. Doesn't do a great deal, it does decent damage actually, and he's going to take some recoil from our item and his own attack, which is great for us, weakening him down bit by bit. We know he's got the Roost, so we've got to play around that, and we also have the Leech Seed on it, which means we can recover nicely too. Figuring that he can't stay in, he switches out and he goes back into Goodra. Goodra's going to come in and take some rocks damage, and he's also going to take a flamethrower, which is obviously resisted, but that's not too bad. We're just chipping away at him, nothing much we can do. That actually does a lot more than I expected it to do. So used to seeing the Assault Vest, and yeah, obviously he's going to fire off his Earthquake, but because of the burn and because of the bulky set, it doesn't really do too much, which means I'm not really threatened by this guy, and I'm just going to keep firing off attacks to try and reduce its HP, knowing that it's not got a recovery move. In a desperation attempt, he goes for an Outrage, smashes himself, locks himself in, gets some major recoil on, and activates his Berry. His Berry is going to recover a lot of HP, but it's also going to confuse him, and we're going to be able to get the Morning Sun up. So knowing that he's locked into his Outrage, I'm going to go into Klefki and knowing that it's a free attack. We obviously get caught in the Sticky Webs, but we're going to be able to freely set up a screen. Outrage doesn't affect us and he's going to be hindered by the burn once again. I kind of misplay because I forgot that if Outrage hits a Fairy type, it breaks the confusion and the lock-in. So I stay in and I go for a screen. He breaks through the confusion quite happily, goes for the Earthquake, and that's going to be able to take me out even with the burn. Maybe if I had the light screen up as well, I would have survived and been able to got both of them off, but that's not the case. So Klefki goes down and Goodra's going to take some more damage from the burn. So Starmie's going to come in at this point, and Starmie's a bulky set, so I'm not really bothered about what he's trying to do to me at this point. I know he's not really got anything that could take me out, so I'm just going to go for a Psyshock. Psyshock's going to put in some nice damage, and he actually goes for a Power Whip. Power Whip's not going to do a great deal, even though it's super effective because he's burnt. Although I guess it did pretty decent, but not really enough to impact the battle unless he got a crit. With his HP so low, I decide just to fire off another attack and finish him off. So Gudra's going to go down. Of course, the battle's coming to a close. I'm going to go for a Psy Shock on the Sylveon that comes in. And of course, his last Pokemon is the Crobat. Crobat's going to take some damage from the rocks as it comes in. And I'm going to retreat and go into Arcanine to finish it off with the Rocky Helmet. So GG Reawakened, it was a good game. Nice little community challenge like I said. So yeah, I had to preserve as many Pokemon as I could, and I happened to keep 3 alive, but that's not too bad I guess. Anyway, if you guys have enjoyed this battle or learned something useful, go ahead and mash that like, share and subscribe buttons, and I'll see you in the next video. Laters!